Hello, Algebra. We are now on lesson 93. In today's lesson, we are going to learn how to divide. Now, some of this we've done before. We've learned some easier methods to do this, but we're going to also learn a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult way of doing this because this doesn't always work. The easy way doesn't always work. So first of all, we would look to see if we can reverse FOIL the numerator. And if we can, and then if it can cancel with the denominator, that would be awesome. So it's a minus plus. So it tells me it's a minus minus. X here, X here. What do I need? I need a 3. Sure enough, one of those in the numerator can cancel with the denominator. And there we go. It's that easy. Because this times this would equal this. All right. Uh-oh. Our X and our whole number are mixed up. Now what do we do? Well, we've had something like this before. How do we get that to kind of switch positions? We multiply by a -1. We'll pull a -1 out of there. And that will force it to do this. How do I know that it's a -2? Because the -1 times a -2 will give me the +2. And the -1 times x will give me the -x. All right, then I look to try to reverse FOIL that numerator, if possible, and then maybe it'll cancel out with that part of the denominator. So it's a minus plus, so that means it's a minus minus, x and x. And sure enough, it's going to be a 3 and a 2, or 2 and a 3, whichever way you want us to put it. And yes, then the x minus 2's can cancel. And so I could put x minus 3 divided by a -1. Dividing by a negative is the exact same thing as multiplying by a -1. So if I'd like to do it that way, and then if I want, I could multiply this out, and I would end up with a 3 minus an x. I'd let it go either way if you gave me this or if you go all the way to that. Doesn't matter to me. Okay, now we're going to learn how to do it, what's called long division. You learned how to do long division back in about 3rd grade with numbers. Well, now it's about time you learn how to do it with algebra. Now it's possible that might reverse FOIL. That would be probably the easier way to go if it works. It doesn't always work though, and you end up with a remainder. So I'm going to teach you how to do the long version. So when we're doing the math like this, you're thinking, what times x is going to get me to a 3x squared? Well, a 3x. And I'm purposely writing it over here because of the x and the x will be right there. It's the same reason why when you do the long division in 3rd grade with the numbers, you line up the numbers in the answer with a certain number down in the dividend. So now we take this times this. So a 3x times an x gives me a 3x squared. And a 3x times a -8 gives me a -24x. And then in long division, you take this and you subtract this. Now keep in mind, we're subtracting the whole thing, and that's important. Now 3x squared minus 3x squared, gone. A -25x minus a minus. So like adding a positive, right? So now a -25x and a +24x is going to give me a -1x. And then I bring down the next number. And then what times x will give me a -1x? Well, that would be a -1. And so a -1 times x is a -1x. And a -1 times a -8, minus times minus, +8. Now remember, I'm subtracting all of this. So a -1 minus a -1, so like adding a positive, that will cancel. And now This was a subtracting a positive 8. So 8 minus 8, I have no remainder. And sure enough, it would have reverse foiled and I could have canceled and got a 3x minus 1. Keep in mind, reverse FOIL will not always work. They won't always cancel out. Try another long division problem here for you. Again, might work with reverse FOIL, then again, it might not. So I'm looking at what times x will give me a 2x squared. Well, that will be a 2x. And remember, I'm purposely putting this over here so the x lines up with the x. 2x times x is a 2x squared, and a 2x times a minus 4 is a minus 8x. And I am subtracting all of that. 2x squared minus 2x squared, it's gone. A minus 7x minus a negative, like adding a positive. So this would give me a positive 1x. Bring down the next number. Don't forget to take the sign with it. Now, what times x will give me x? Well, 1, a positive 1. 1 times x is x. 1 times a minus 4 is a minus 4. I'm going to subtract all of that. X minus x, 0. A minus 9, subtracting a negative, it's like adding a positive, and I end up with a negative 5. There's no more numbers to bring down, so that's my remainder. But we're not going to put remainder negative 5. We're going to make that into a fraction. Minus a 5, because it's minus because this is a minus, over, remember how we do this in 5th grade? There's your denominator, x minus 4. That's it. All right, so let's try this one. Oh, look at this. I've got an x cubed, but I don't have any x squareds. So when I put this in here, I have to put a 0x squared, because that'll play a part later on. Dividing by an x minus 3. So what times x will get me a 3x cubed? Well, that will be a 3x squared. So multiply that out. So 3x squared times an x is a 3x cubed, minus, and a 3x squared times a 3 gives me a 9x squared. I will subtract all of that. This is gone. And subtracting a negative is like adding a positive. So this will end up being a 9x squared. Bring down the next term, minus 2x. What times x will give me a 9x squared? That will be a positive 9x. You notice I've got the x squareds above the x squareds, the x above the x. I do that on purpose because then I know where the remainder goes, if there is one. Okay, so the 9x times the x is a 9x squared. 9x times a minus 3 gives me a minus 27x. I'm going to subtract all of that. This is gone. A minus 2x minus a negative. There we go again. That'll end up being a positive 25x. Bring down the next term. Now, what times x gives me 25x? Well, that would be a 25. So 25 times x is a 25x minus 25 times 3 is 75. I subtract all of that. 25x minus 25x, that's gone. Subtracting the negative, same as adding positive, so 5 plus 75 is 80. I'm running out of space. I have nothing more to bring down. I ran out of room, so now comes my remainder. Since that's a positive 80, it's going to be a plus sign right here. 80 over my divisor, x minus 3. Isn't that fun? Okay, let's try another example problem. Divide this out. Oh, I'm sorry, this is practice letter A. Practice letter A. Well, if you look closely at this, I mean, we could try to reverse FOIL. But I notice there's a bunch of x's in each of those terms, which we can probably pull out something. And now does 7 come out of 84? Yes, it does, 12 times. So first of all, let's pull out a 7x squared. And now when I do that, I have an x squared plus an x minus a 12, all over a 7x squared. Hey, look at that. That can cancel with that. Bada boom. And if you want, you could reverse FOIL it, or you could just leave it as it is. Let's practice letter A. Practice letter B. Hey, maybe we could reverse FOIL this one instead of the long division version. So does that work? To reverse FOIL that numerator, it's a minus plus, so that means it's a minus minus. Got an x and an x. How do I get a 25? You're right, a 5. And sure enough, one of these cancels one of those. And there we go. That was letter B. Letter C. Oh, look at that divisor. Yes, I don't like those. Well, we could try reverse foiling, or we could go long division. Let's try the reverse FOIL. 3x squared minus 14x minus 5. What could that equal reverse FOIL? Well, one would have to be a 3x and one is an x. It's a minus minus, so that means it's a plus minus or it's going to be a minus plus. And the only way to get a 5 is a 1 and a 5. So if I put the 5 here and the 1 here, could I do it? What if I put a plus here and a minus there? Does that give me the minus 14x in the middle? No, it does not. All right. What if I put the 1 here and the 5 here? And again, plus minus. Does that give me a minus 14x in the middle? Yeah, it does. Awesome. Okay, but right now I have a 5 minus x, not an x minus 5. Remember how to take care of that. We can multiply this, or not multiply, but pull out a negative 1. And when I do that, this will switch around and make it real nice for me. It will make it an x minus 5. And then this can cancel with this. We could leave the answer like this. I also told you dividing by a negative 1, same as multiplying by a negative 1. And you could do the math here and go a minus 3x minus 1. All kinds of ways you could leave the final answer. That's letter C. Okay, now in the book they say go long division on this one. So we'll practice. What times x will give me an x cubed? Well, that would be an x squared. So multiply that times this, and I get this. Remember, we subtract the whole thing. This, whoops, I'm sorry, that should be an x cubed. That will be gone. Subtracting the negative, same as adding the positive. So this will end up being a 10x squared. Bring down the next term. What times x will give me a 10x squared? It's a positive 10x squared, so this will be a positive 10x. 10x times x is a 10x squared. 10x times a minus 2 is a minus 20x. I am subtracting all of that. 10x squared minus 10x squared, that's gone. Subtracting the negative, and a negative 20 and a positive 20x. All good. No remainder. There's my answer. Yeah, we could have reverse foiled this one perhaps, but good practice to do the long division as well. Here's another one for long division. So what times x will give me a 6x cubed? I would actually recommend you pause the video, try this on your own, and then you can always check your work with what I did and see if you got it right. So a 6x squared times an x will give me a 6x cubed. 6x squared times a minus 2 will give me a minus 12x squared. I'm subtracting all of that. This will be gone. Subtracting the negative means adding a positive. So this comes out being a positive 9x squared. Bring down the next term. Now what times x gives me the 9x squared? Well, that would be a positive 9x. 9x times x is a 9x squared. 9x times a minus 2 is a minus 18x. I'm subtracting all of that. So 9x, whoop, that was an x squared. 9x squared minus 9x squared is all gone. Subtracting the negative, adding the positive, so this becomes a 19x. Bring down the next term. Don't forget to take the sign with it. What times x gives me 19x? Well, that would be a positive 19. 19 times x is 19x. Minus 19 times 2 is a negative 38. I'm subtracting all of this. So this is gone, subtracting the negative, and I end up with a positive 5 over the divisor for my remainder. So this one would not have reverse FOILed. The problems that are in the book sometimes have these out of order. So make sure you put them in descending order. They have to be in descending order. And if they're missing a term, you got to fill it in with a 0. In this case, a 0x squared. You just have to. Okay, so what times x gives me a 5x cubed? That would be a 5x squared. Multiply it out, 5x cubed minus a 20x squared. And I'm subtracting all of that. This is gone. Subtract the negative. Comes out a positive 20x squared. Bring down the next term with the sign. What times x gives me a 20x squared? That would be a 20x, and it's a positive, so it's a plus sign. 20x times x is a 20x squared. 20x times a minus 4 gives me a minus 80x. I am subtracting all of that. This will cancel, subtracting the negative. So now I'm up to an 86x. Bring down that next term. And what times x gives me 86x? It is an 86. So an 86x minus 86 times 4, 344. I hope I did that right. Yep. Subtracting all of that. This is gone. Subtracting the negative. And the negative 8 and a positive 344 gives me a positive 336 as a remainder. I've got nothing more to bring down. That's how I know I'm at the end. I also ran out of space up here. It's a positive, so that's a plus 336 over my divisor, which is an x minus 4. All right, we got one problem left. A word problem. We're talking about an area of a rectangle. We know area of a rectangle is length times width. They're going to tell us the area and the length. We need to find the width. So to find width, you got to take the area and divide by the length. So well, there it is. You think we could reverse FOIL this, or do we got to do it long division? Oh, I hope we could do it. Well, we could do it long division and have fun, or we could do reverse FOIL and save ourselves a little bit of fun. Okay, minus plus, so it's a minus minus. X and x, denominator is an x minus 4. How am I going to get a minus 10 in the middle? One will be a 4, one's going to be a 6. And sure enough, cancel out. And so my width has to be an x minus 6. And here's my label. Take a square feet and divide by feet. Feet for a label. Okay, it's possible in year 1 through 30, your number 8 might be rewritten in your book. If it is, go with what's been rewritten. It is rewritten in my book. Other than that, I do not have anything to X out of your book. If you've got any questions, you got to get a hold of me. Use somebody else's phone if you don't have one. call, text, or email. Send me a picture of the problem, and I'll help you out as soon as I can. Have yourself a great time.